Welcome back. You're watching To The Point. October is not even a week old, but we've already had 12 ceasefire violations and perhaps 4 in just 24 hours over the weekend. The most recent, which killed 5 civilians and injured 34 others, is one of the most serious. So why is this happening? Is it a reflection of Pakistan's own disturbed politics? And how should the Indian government respond? Joining me to shed light on those questions is former Army Chief General Ved Prakash Malik, former High Commissioner to Pakistan G. Partha, and joining us from Islamabad, former Army General and former Secretary of Defence Production, Lieutenant General Talat Masood. Mr. Partha, last night 5 Indian citizens were killed and maybe 34 more injured by unprovoked ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Newspapers report that there have been 12 ceasefire violations, if you include the one that happened at 5:40 this evening, in just the first 6 days of October. And there was a 24-hour period over the weekend when there were 4. Now, is this, in your eyes, a deliberate stepped-up campaign by Pakistan? Or is it a reflection of the fact that October is the last few weeks before winter sets in and snow closes the passes, and Pakistan is desperate to push across as many infiltrators as it can, and these violations provide them cover?
Look, I'm not surprised. Lieutenant by General Rahil Sharif, the army chief, was there in the neighborhood last week, and he did say some rather strong things about giving decisive replies to whatever India does or does not do. That's one aspect of the Pakistan Army's response. Secondly, yes, there is a political vacuum in Pakistan because Mr. Nawaz Sharif may be Prime Minister, but he's not effectively in charge. Thirdly, you asked me about the coming winter. Yes, September, October are till November are heavy months before the snows set in, when there is heavy infiltration. But let me add, Karan, between 2002 and 2007, there was virtually nil. The ceasefire was respected.
Post 2007?
Post 2008, it started picking up. Once Musharraf left and Kayani took over, infiltration increased.
So you're saying that every September, October, post 2008, we've had this stepping up of violations, stepping up of infiltration.
This is a period when it goes up, but it generally starts by July.
Has it this year gone up more markedly and sharply than in earlier years, or is this in a sense par for the course?
No, I think it's slightly more this year, and I must add one more thing, that the response has also been much more robust now than it was in the past.
Absolutely. I'll come to that in a moment's time. General Malik, these ceasefire violations coincide with Pakistan's heightened rhetoric on Kashmir. First from Nawaz Sharif at the United Nations, then from Bilawal Bhutto at Multan, and then most recently from their Foreign Office spokesperson in Islamabad. Could there be a connection between the stepped-up ceasefire violations and the heightened rhetoric on Kashmir?
Yes, I agree with you, Karan. There is no doubt that Pakistan has put Kashmir on the center stage for last 1 month or a little more. And all these issues that you have brought up, Nawaz Sharif's response, Nawaz Sharif's speech in the General Assembly in United Nations, or whatever is happening on the border, and even Bilawal Bhutto's rant on that we will capture the whole of Kashmir, and other people talking about it. You know, I think they're trying to put this as a national agenda, and it suits all political parties, including Nawaz Sharif. It suits the terrorist organizations, it suits the fundamentalists, and of course it suits the Pakistan Army. So I somehow get a sense that all these people together are trying to put Kashmir once again back on the center stage as far as negotiations with India is concerned. And there is one more reason, perhaps I can mention it here. I think they also realize that the separatists, they are demoralized at the moment because our present government has refused their talking to the Pakistan High Commissioner and other Pakistan people. So therefore, they are probably also trying to raise their morale and tell them that, look, we continue to support you and you continue to be relevant as far as Kashmir negotiations with Pakistan are concerned. So all these issues put together, and what Partha has said, including the robust response from the Indian military or Indian paramilitary. So all these things seem to have all put together, and that is why you find so much of violence along the border.
General Masood, the surprising thing is that the recent ceasefire violations, I'm talking about those that have happened in the month of October, there have been 11 in 6 days, 12 in fact if you include the one that happened at 5:40 this evening, they're happening after a month and a bit of calm. Secondly, they're happening not just on the ceasefire line, but several have happened on the international border. Of the 11 till this morning, 4 were on the international border. What's the view from Pakistan of what's happening?
I think Pakistan is very low key on it, except for the fact that the ISPR gave a statement saying that the Indians flouted the line of control and came out with aggressive firing. So there was some response to that, but it was more of a response rather than an initiation by Pakistan. So I think the picture is completely opposite as far as Pakistan is concerned. And I would also say that Pakistan at the moment is not playing up on this, and there is not much news either on the television or in the newspapers apart from a sort of a statement. So and I have noticed that this has been the case for the last several months, that India seems to be sort of hyping it much more than Pakistan, and I don't understand that, because I wouldn't think that Pakistan under any circumstances would like to increase the tension between India and Pakistan. It has so many problems of its own, and I just can't imagine. That is different. I can give an explanation for the reasons why the Prime Minister made a statement about Kashmir so firmly, and because I think there are several reasons for that.
Let's keep our focus to the ceasefire violations. The interesting thing is you're saying that they're being underplayed in Pakistan. They're not being talked about or reported except very blandly. Why is that? A quick answer. Why are they being underplayed?
For the simple reason that I think Pakistan thinks that these violations, there is a mechanism for it, and we don't want to increase the hype, because that only ruins the relationship. Already at the moment there is a certain amount of tension between India and Pakistan. So I think it wants to mitigate matters and not sort of further aggravate them.
Now, both you and General Malik refer to the fact that our security forces are under strict instructions to not only retaliate strongly, but possibly to retaliate one notch more than the provocation they receive. Is there a sense in which this policy is either making for more violations or provoking ceasefire violations by both sides, or at least making the violations when they happen seem much worse than they would have? Because today the BBC has reported, although Pakistan may not, that Pakistan claims 4 people, civilians, were killed on their side by Indian firing.
Look, when this sort of firing takes place, civilians are going to get hit on both sides. But I would like to add one thing, which since General Masood has referred to this, seems to be an expectation in Pakistan that as a result of the floods, the public discontent against the Indian state in Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in the valley, is very strong. And therefore, I would regard it as being logical for them to step up the heat and the infiltration, which appears to be happening just now. So it is calibrated to developments in the valley. It is calibrated to defense the developments with regard to the floods. It's calibrated by the way the separatists have sought, especially to take advantage of the floods for their own propaganda. So there is a political method related to the Kashmir Valley and the floods, which and with the winter coming on, they have to do everything they can now.
Let me put that to you, General Masood, because we are really only, and I admit this, speculating about why this is happening. But one credible explanation given just now by Mr. Parthasarathy, a former High Commissioner to your country, is that your security forces are trying to exploit what they believe is disenchantment in the valley as a result of the floods. And you believe you can exploit that through these ceasefire violations, through stepped up infiltration. Is this possibly part of the thinking of your establishment? Because I know that your security establishment does not look very warmly and encouragingly on Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's commitment to find a way of getting the dialogue off the ground with India.
Well, I have great respect for Mr. Parthasarathy, and I think he is reading too much between the lines. That is true that the establishment of the military is not very happy the way India has responded to Pakistan's gestures, and the Prime Minister went overboard in order to try to improve relations, whereas the response from India was very lukewarm and discouraging. So that did upset many people, even those who were very much wanting good relations with India. To that extent, I think I would agree there. But I would also say that it doesn't make sense whatsoever, because after all, any action by any side, whether Indian or Pakistani, has to make some either strategic or tactical sense. And to me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to sort of advance, further worsen the relationship and also create a problem on the LOC.
General Malet, let me pursue that same point by putting it like this. These recent violations are happening just after Sardar Aziz explained at the UN, first to Headlines Today, but then to other channels as well, that the timing of the Pakistan High Commissioner's talks with the Hurriyat was a mistake. And he clearly indicated that if and when the two governments resumed their stalled dialogue, it would not be necessarily preceded by an attempt to talk again to Hurriyat. And many in India believed that Mr. Aziz had possibly opened half a door for the dialogue to begin. Now, given that the Pakistan Army is not keen on that dialogue, do you think this is being done on purpose to scupper any hopes of the dialogue resuming which Mr. Aziz may have created?
Karan, I would like to put one more fact in place, and that is that in the recent dialogue that takes place along the line of control or on the international border, I noticed that the Pakistani Rangers, they have refused to talk to the Indian BSF posts. And I mean, today it was reported that they have even refused to accept the Eid greetings and the sweets, which is done traditionally every year. So there is, it happened last time also, though there is some factor which I would put it as either the Pakistan Army or the political factor which is involved in this violence that is going on along the line of control and the international border. Now, coming to your point, yes, I think the present government has given a very clear message that they will not allow separatists or secessionists, whatever they are called, to have a dialogue with Pakistan, and I personally feel that that is quite justified. And if Pakistan political leadership feels peeved about it, and they are not very happy about it, I don't think things are going to change from our side.
But the point I was making was a little different. Do you think, General Malik, that after Sardar Aziz accepted that the timing of the Pakistan High Commissioner's talks with the Hurriyat was mistaken and wrong, and clearly then indicated that if and when dialogue resumes, it won't be preceded with another attempt to talk to Hurriyat, that at that point, the Pakistan Army became worried that maybe there is a new attempt at starting dialogue and they're trying to scupper that new attempt with these fresh ceasefire violations. Is this therefore being deliberately done to stall any improvement in the relationship which was half hinted at the UN?
Yeah, there is no doubt that there is it's a deliberate move. You know, this much of firing doesn't place, even if somebody fires accidentally, there is a response from both sides, but it dies down and people talk to each other. There are telephone connections, people can speak to each other. But there is no doubt in my mind that last 1 month, whatever is happening, it is deliberate action on the part of Pakistani Rangers and the Pakistani military on the line of control.
In which case, let me put a blunt question to you, Mr. Masood, before I come back to studio and put a similar sort of question to Mr. Parthasarathy. Is the domestic politics of Pakistan, where Nawaz Sharif is clearly a weakened Prime Minister and the army has clearly gained after the Qadri Imam Khan protests, part of the explanation for what's happening?
No, I don't think it is connected with that, because you have to understand that today Pakistan Army is really stretched. It's fighting a very major insurgency, as you are aware, and doing a fine job in that. And it wants to really focus on that at the moment. the country is also passing through some very difficult period, as you are all aware. And I think it would be a great folly, and I don't think anyone in the military leadership could ever think that they want to open another front with India. So I don't think you have to give some credit to our intelligence and some credit that we do not want to land into another problem with India at this moment. That is different. That because there is lack of confidence on both sides, there is a lack of communication on both sides. Okay. There is a unwillingness on the part of India even to talk, what to talk of, what to think in terms of finding solutions. Then I'm afraid these type of incidents will continue to take place because they are really a corollary of the lack of confidence and the inability to talk to each other results in all this.
Prima facie, the answer we've heard just now from General Masood is quite compelling, because there is no doubt the Pakistan Army has now launched itself on a serious attempt to quell the insurgency in North Waziristan. There is no doubt that there is political confusion in the country. Those protests may not be as they may not have completely paralyzed Islamabad the way they had earlier, but they continue, and in fact there are critical by-elections where Nawaz Sharif will be tested very soon. Why then do we in India feel so convinced that these violations are actually the work of the Pakistan Army? Because there's no doubt we are convinced of it, and yet the answer you get from General Masood seems prima facie quite compelling as well.
Listen, in the Pakistan Army, even a second lieutenant will not listen to Nawaz Sharif. That is the reality of Pakistan. So let's be clear, the Pakistan Army is a law unto itself. Yes, I go along with General Masood that they would not want to escalate things to a level which gets out of hand, because they're fully stuck up on their western borders. But give them the sort of capacity to raise, to be able to escalate things, but retaining a degree of escalation control. The Rangers not talking.
That's a very risky strategy to try.
It is a risky strategy, but then that's the way the Pakistan Army functions, and that's what has landed them in trouble in the past, not just with India. So just one more point, that there are mechanisms to talk. The local commanders can meet, the DGMOs can meet. But I want to say this, they will be making a miscalculation, as others have also made, that on territorial, what we regard as territorial violations, we would be as laid back as we have been in recent years.
Well, that's the point I want to take first with you, General Malik, and then to General Masood. And the point is this. The Home Minister Rajnath Singh today said on television that Pakistan must stop these violations, because he added, Bharat mein zamana badal gaya hai. You know, that is a warning. Some saw it as an implied threat. What if Pakistan doesn't realize कि ज़माना बदल गया है? What then does the Indian government do if these violations keep sporadically or not sporadically, regularly continuing?
But Karan, I don't think any senior politician in his right senses would want to give a threat to another country. You know, after all, such incidents have been taking place earlier also. So I think what he's trying to convey is that, look, the government has changed, and therefore we are not going to follow the policy of appeasement or a soft attitude. I think that is what he's trying to convey. But let me also mention to you that, you know, escalation here in this area with the kind of things that are happening, it's not possible beyond a point. Along the international border in Sialkot and Araspura and Jammu, there are villages on either side, and they will suffer heavily on both sides if we continue to escalate.
I will laugh at that one.
So there is a limit to the escalation that can take place in these areas. And I think what the Home Minister is trying to say is that, look, we will not follow a soft policy, and there will be a robust reaction to whatever Pakistan is doing. I don't think it should be taken as a threat to Pakistan.
General Masood, I imagine that by now your television channels, if not your television channels, at least your government is aware of what the Indian Home Minister said on TV, that Pakistan must realize Bharat mein zamana badal gaya hai. How will that message go down with the army and with the civilian leadership?
Well, probably they think that the BJP government in any case is more belligerent at the moment with Pakistan than the previous one. and also the previous BJP government as compared to that. So I think they will take it in that spirit. But I don't think they think that India is going to launch an attack on Pakistan. And I would also say that why is it that both the countries are not actualizing the mechanisms that are in force? And what is preventing them from doing that? Is it intransigence on the part of both the sides or one side, or what is it? Because
can I interrupt?
The whole mechanism...
Can I interrupt? You're asking why the mechanisms are not being actualized. I imagine you're talking about the DGMO mechanism in particular, but you've just heard General Malik say... But you've just heard General Malik say a little while ago that even Eid sweets are not being accepted by Rangers on your side today. And that when the BSF asked the Rangers for talks, the Rangers refused. So it seems that there's a certain reluctance, hesitation, call it what you will, from your side to even accept sweets on Eid.
Well, I would look at it like this. What must have happened is that the firing has been so intense from the Indian side on the Pakistani side, and because of the casualties, they must have thought that to accept sweets would be such a huge contradiction and would look so, ridiculous in a way and so embarrassing. So I think that is the reason why they must have refused. So I think we need to sort of calm down by stopping the firing first, and then ask for talks. And I think that is the way out, because there is no way out otherwise, unless you want to go to war. I mean, there is no way that you can solve these problems unless you talk. And we are not talking at the military level, we are not talking at the civilian level, at the political level. So what exactly do we want?
You know, in this situation where we're not talking, where ceasefire violations are happening, where we claim that they are more serious than the last one, civilians are getting killed, is there a danger, even if it's a small and remote one, that things could slip out of control?
I don't think so. And I go along with what General Malik has said. What is happening is in the Jammu sector, and there is a certain limitation to how far it can go. But I was amused to listen to General Malik, because when escalation took place in his tenure, he didn't allow a bird to fly over the Neelam Valley on the other side of the line of control. So, you know, I do not think things are headed back there. First of all, I find it astonishing that the Rangers should refuse to meet the BSF, because we are not wanting to even escalate it to the army level. I mean, heavy firepower is not being brought in. It's between the Rangers.
But there can be pique on both sides. There can be a little bit of anger on both sides. Then it doesn't mean to say it's permanent.
Then it's best that the DGMOs talk. I mean, after they talk every week.
But you're reasonably, relatively sanguine that this latest violation, which killed 5, injured 34, is not the first sign of things slipping out of control.
No, it won't slip out of control. No.
All right, gentlemen, on that somewhat reassuring note, my thanks to all three of my guests for joining me. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.